some of the things I would like us to consider is then, as I think about this, if you think about some of the findings that I summarized, a consistent theme has been the dual nature, what I call the dual nature of disability. Disability can be an object of protection. We can mobilize things to support people, families, children. But we can use also disability to stratify, to marginalize, to push out. How does that happen? To whom? What are the processes and mechanisms? We don't know. The answer differs depending on the site and the people involved. For that reason, I argue that we need to bring a situated approach to understand the conditions, and I can explain more in the discussion how we are thinking about that as well. And I hope that it was somewhat clear that as I discussed the different dimensions of the problem for dual language learners and disability, that this is not about only teachers or school psychologists or principals. This is not only about kids that are lacking things. There are broader issues in the system that need to be addressed. And for that reason, I argue that we should be engaging this from a systemic perspective. Second, we need to be putting in conversation a lot. There is an explosion of research in learning sciences and anthropology of learning that is really doing exciting things to understand human learning through a cultural lens. We need to put in conversation that work with the work of bilingual education and dual language learning and disability to find opportunities to expand on the ways in which we're articulating these ideas. There are some potential avenues to do this. I can share with you some of that as well. And that in turn will hopefully inform new visions of curriculum and pedagogy and assessment and professional development. And here is an interesting development that I find in discussions in the education field, and that is the idea of dignity. Dignity speaks to the moral dimension of what we do in education. And there is interesting work that Manuel Espinosa and Luis Posas have been doing on this, among other people, and I recommend their work highly. The idea is to advance ways of thinking that education should be rooted in ideas of personhood and participation in communities. And if you think about language in broader ways, from language to languaging, as something that is, has more richness, and you begin to think about how do you design systems to expand the possibilities to organize school systems for dignity, that are dignity affirming, then you can bring a whole new perspective to understand who the learners are and what they bring from their communities. And I'll be happy to expand on this idea. It's a developing idea that is relatively young, but I think it has a lot of appeal to me in terms of how we can approach the respect that we provide, the voice that we, the spaces we open for student voice in the discussions. And if we bring that to the interpersonal level in classrooms, it can be, and there is evidence showing how people can do that, it will be very interesting to explore this idea of dignity. Who doesn't want to be treated with dignity? We haven't done enough of that, I think, especially for dual language learners with disabilities. It's hot, it's late. I really appreciate your attention, so thank you so much.